Hello, and you're very welcome to The Contact Book, the show where we look back at the lives and times of our guests with a little bit of help from those who know them best, because we have access to their contact book, their phone, and we'll be calling up those who lived through so many of their life experiences with them. Oh yes, it's awkward. Oh yes, it's endearing, and the truth behind all those tales will be revealed. We have a fabulous guest for you on The Contact Book. A real legend of the game of rugby, no doubt about that. She has one of the greatest records in world rugby, has played for her country 74 times, scored 28 tries, won a World Cup and helped England win a record-breaking seven consecutive Six Nations crowns. She has one of the most recognisable names in the world game. But you know something? Rugby fans don't know her from any of that. They recognise her from the way she tackles people. She is a machine. She absolutely hammered them. She folded them in half because she is Maggie the Machine Alphonsi. Maggie, how are you? Welcome to The Contact Book.
Oh, do you know what, Craig? That has to be one of the best build-ups I've ever heard. I'm in awe right now. I'm blushing as well.
Well, you know what you do with that? You clip that up, have it as your phone ring. That's what
I might actually do that.
How are you, Maggie? Life has been so interesting for you recently. So much going on. How are you keeping? How are you?
I'm not doing too bad, actually. Look, we're all going through difficult times right now, but yeah, I'm doing all right. Only about 5 weeks ago, I gave birth to a little boy, and life has been fairly different since. So not getting much sleep, to be honest. But apart from that, really enjoying having a little boy around the house and growing, helping him grow, I guess. So yeah, things have been okay. It's just having to adapt to this new norm, which is a bit strange for everyone, I think.
It's amazing, isn't it? Particularly the kind of player you were as a back rower, and you were just a tackling machine, and some of the players you just took out. Yes, a tiny little baby, a few weeks old, can absolutely destroy your daily routine and take you down.
Look, Craig, you know what it's like. Sleep deprivation is definitely one of the worst things ever to have to cope with and to try and get through your day when you've had very little of that. So yeah, it's amazing. A little boy can do that to you, or a little baby can do that to you in terms of completely wipe you out. But it's great to have a little one around the house. To be fair, I don't miss tackling people anymore. I have to say, it's nice to let my body recover, if I'm honest. But a little boy does have that impact on you in terms of no sleep and knacking you out.
I'm interested, Maggie, because obviously when you bring up a child and you just go, I want this to be the most perfect life for this little being. Your own upbringing, your own childhood, how was it?
I guess my childhood was quite normal in the sense that, a kid that needs to be kept busy, trying to keep them engaged, doing activities. But I guess for me, I also was quite a naughty child, I guess. So for me, my initial upbringing, I was brought up in a council estate environment in North London. I used to kind of when I'd go into school, get into trouble quite a lot, not actually spend much time on my lessons. I was quite disengaged, if I'm honest. But I enjoyed playing sport though. So I enjoyed socialising with friends. And I'd say for me, growing up, I just wanted to have attention. Single parent family, no siblings around me. So it was always all about me, really, which is probably why I got into a lot of trouble, because I just wanted to get attention put on me. And at one point, I almost got kicked out of school, really. And I owe a lot to some of the key people in my life who sort of helped me stay on the straight and narrow and be quite disciplined with my attitude. And yeah, school for me was I had a good time at school, but again, my lack of behaviour didn't help me, and I relied on certain teachers to sort of help me out of that and give me the right direction. Thankfully, I had some key teachers who really believed in me and allowed me to sort of stay disciplined and stay in school, I guess.
Well, you've teed up our first kind of dive into your mobile phone very well there indeed, because one of your teachers was Lisa Burgess, and I know Lisa is still a friend of yours. You do have her number on your phone.
I do. I
think we should give Lisa a call, because she was your PE teacher while you were in school. Now she works in women's rugby now, but she's ringing away there, Maggie. So I don't know how often you speak to her, but this is the beauty of The Contact Book. We hear the truth. Hi Lisa, it's Craig Doyle here on The Contact Book. I have your old naughty student Maggie Alphonsi on the phone with me. How are you?
Hey, Craig. Hey, Maggie. We're all good here, thanks. Yeah, great to hear you both.
I'm very well. How are you doing, Bird?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, grand.
Okay,
So what's
explain
happening,
bird.
guys?
Well, explain bird to me. Why bird?
Oh gosh, it's a nickname that just stuck with me through rugby. It started off at Loughborough University and it just kind of stuck there. So I've kind of got two names. I've got Lisa for my close family, and then everybody else in the rugby world knows me as Bird or Birdie. So yeah, it stuck with me.
Well, Birdie, for the sake of today, I think Maggie's now trembling in fear. She's realised what is involved in the contact book, that we get to get all her secrets. But look, you were her teacher back in school, and Maggie was saying she wasn't a necessarily very good or engaged child. What kind of child did you see back then?
Oh, she was brilliant. I only ever saw the positive in her because, obviously she was playing sport. She was full of enthusiasm. She was a little bundle of energy and just loved the sport she was in before school, lunchtimes. She could play sports. She'd be there in that gym or out on the field. She picked up a discus and threw it. I think she broke the record the first time she threw the blooming discus for the borough. She was just a really talented, enthusiastic, bubbly personality, lovely girl. She was a real pleasure to teach.
It's really interesting, Maggie, because you talk about your childhood in school and you're thinking you weren't engaged because academia just maybe wasn't your thing. But we speak to Birdie here, we speak to Lisa here, and she spotted what your potential was. It's amazing when with a kid, when you pick the right thing, they can really soar, right?
I think that's the big bit, isn't it, really? I was quite lucky to have a teacher like Bird because very much she saw the strengths in me, and I had a teacher like Bird who just basically believed that I could be good, and when I played sport, I absolutely felt free. I felt like I was a good student, and as a result of that, I think I just continued to sort of apply that in my other lessons.
Lisa, did you have to convince the other teachers that this young Maggie Alphonsi wasn't all bad?
I think she convinced them herself with, she showed leadership qualities right when she was in the gym. She was encouraging others. She was really patient, really helped people progress. And she had a little wicked streak in her. But I mean, that can be harnessed in the right way. And I think she was a real role model back then for the kids as well in school. And, I was really lucky, and myself in the head of year, we talked about Maggie a lot, and she really showed her true colours in regards to what she was capable of.
She's been very modest herself because she's a very good teacher, not just worked with me, but haven't you also teached Macca Villapola and Billy Villapola as well?
I didn't. Macca was in the school, yeah. Well, Billy was in my school, yeah. I did GCSE with Billy. He was an interesting character in school, yeah. Good old Billy at the Castle School in Thornbury. Many happy memories of him. But yeah, like you say, people have different strengths. Children have different strengths. And, it's our job as teachers to find out what those strengths are and kind of develop and build them.
Let's roll back the years, right? Let's a bit of compare and contrast. Who showed the most potential as a kid? Macca Vunipola, Billy Vunipola, or Maggie Alphonsi?
That's a really interesting one because obviously with Maggie, I didn't actually teach her as such for GCSE PE. It was more on a practical base. So I was with her with all the extracurricular type stuff. And
don't try and sidestep this now, Bird. Don't sidestep it, right?
Do you see where I'm going here?
I see what you're trying to do.
He was in a classroom, sat down, having to really concentrate and focus on written work, which, let's be honest, like myself, I'm a PE person. I like being out there. It's not the easiest in class, but I saw different characters every time they came in the classroom, which you just got to work your way through. So yeah, Billy had his different challenges in the classroom, but he was always one of the great characters and always lots of fun. You didn't know what he was going to bring each day, but he was also really intelligent, Billy, and in the classroom as reflected by his results he achieved in his PE. So in answer to your question, they both showed huge potential on the field and in the classroom. With Billy, that's the only one I taught. I didn't teach Maggie in the classroom, but I'm sure she was full of it.
I can see why you played rugby, Bird. Decent sidestep there, nice. I mean, Maggie's admittedly saying that sport, saved her might sound a bit melodramatic, but certainly stopped her getting into a lot of trouble. Is that something you saw?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sport brings opportunities, it brings responsibilities, and it lets the person grow and thrive. And I think, with that comes that leadership role. Maggie was a natural captain. The girls looked up to her. They respected what she could achieve and do and what she could offer them as well.
Maggie is an incredibly conscientious person, and it's interesting that that's something she was behaving like that with a strong conscience back in school. Tell me about the award she won from the council and what she did with it.
I don't know if you remember this. Like, this is going back to athletics now. Do you remember this, Maggie?
I do remember this, yeah.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about rugby or something, and Maggie was like doing athletics at the time and really successful. And she was awarded a grant. I think it was 500 monetary award. Anyway, after the summer holidays, you know, great, really well done on this grant. You know, go off and get yourself sorted with your discus, your athletic track shoes, etc. And when she came back, she's like, "Oh, miss, I've had a great summer." I said, "Oh, brilliant. How you been getting on?" "Oh, well, I bought 2 pairs of rugby boots, 4 pairs of shorts, a couple of rugby shirts." And I was going, what about the athletics? "No, I'm going to play rugby. I really want to do rugby." And I was like, right, okay, let's explain that to the borough then. So, but yeah, and it was money well spent as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
You made your choice, Maggie,
So,
yeah?
yes.
I did, yeah, at that point. I mean, I love discus, but it wasn't as fun as rugby. So, yeah, at that point, I thought the £500 would be better spent on a good pair of rugby boots.
Before we leave you, Birdie, I'm going with Birdie instead of Bird. I quite like that. Lisa,
Yeah.
what was it about Maggie's rugby, her style of playing, even as a kid, that you saw, oh, she's got something here. We got to play her.
She just loved contact. I mean, you know, she was incredibly skillful with her hands. She had a real deft set of hands. That little offload she could offer was brilliant. But her physicality, you know, her power and flexibility to get over the ball, win those turnovers was just phenomenal. You know, and also as she grew and developed, her understanding of the game, you know, was just really shone through. And she's a natural leader. You know, people look up to her because of the way she plays and her fearlessness, if you like, in the actual game itself. And she was a real competitive character who trained, you know, who's put everything, you know, worked as hard as she possibly could to achieve everything. It doesn't just happen. You can have talent, but you've got to work that talent and make it shine through. And Maggie did that and achieved great things as a result.
Well, Lisa Bird Burgess, you played a huge part in that. So on behalf of everyone who loved watching Maggie play, thank you for introducing her to rugby. Thanks so much. Great talking to you. Take care of yourself.
Oh,
thank you, Bird.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
now.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Maggie, what Lisa didn't mention and you haven't mentioned, and it's just what you're like, but the fact that you did have a problem with your foot. You weren't physically in the same level with everyone else because you had a problem with your foot, with your leg, and so you had to work a bit harder. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's correct. So I guess when I was born with a physical disability called clubfoot, but it's also called talopesis. That's where basically one or both your feet are completely turned in. So when I was born, my right foot was turned all the way in, and the doctors operated on me. I can't remember what age it was, but I was very young, so I must have been around 1 or 2 years old, when the bones weren't too fully formed. Anyway, I had an operation to straighten my foot, and as a result of that, it just meant my childhood, mainly when I was really young, I spent a lot of time going in and out of hospital trying to make sure my foot was healing correctly and was, I guess, straightening in a way that it should be. And I guess when I played sport at primary school and secondary school, I was always aware of it, but I didn't let it affect me. So I was, you know, I could run really well and I could still be active with everyone, but I was always aware that I had a bit of a limp. So even now when you see me, I've got a bit of a limp. I mean, if I'm in London, it looks pretty cool when I've got this limp, but where I live in Buckinghamshire, it doesn't actually reflect that well. So yeah, so I guess my childhood was quite challenging because there's a lot of times when I had to go into hospital to get my foot sort of looked at, and as I got older in my rugby career, my strength conditioning training was all about trying to strengthen my calf to ensure that the way I walked, my gait in terms of running as well, was efficient and not causing stress on my ankles or my knees. And it was quite difficult, really. But at the same time, I didn't let it bother me. But when I retired, I then sort of understood my condition, I guess. And someone else said to me that, you know, you've got a physical disability there, and to an extent, I guess you could compete in the Paralympics with the disability that you've got. But because you've worked so hard to straighten your foot as well and have the operation, you've done so well to not let it be an issue. So yeah, it was something I had to really work hard over my childhood and my career to make sure that I didn't let the foot bother me.
I just think it's amazing strength of mind for a young person. I have so much admiration for you. Although I'm sure your former teammates weren't as kind, because I know what they're like. I know what rugby players are like. They are absolutely ruthless. So I think we should get one of them on. And a very old friend of yours, I think most of your 15-year international career you spent playing alongside her, sitting beside her on the bus. Danielle Waterman, another legend of the game. And I think you definitely have Nolly on your phone. So let's give Nolly a buzz if you don't mind. Nolly, fantastic character, of course, in the world of media now as well. Yourself and Nolly. She's always busy though. She's
busy.
Answer. Hello.
Hello.
Hiya, Nolly, it's Craig Doyle here. I'm with your old pal Maggie on the contact book.
Have you got serious Maggie or have you got rugby Maggie that I know?
We've
got media Maggie.
We got media Maggie, but we're breaking her down. We're breaking her down. But so tell us about, first of all, your relationship with her, because you played together for England for so many years, didn't you?
Yep, indeed. I think Maggie and I first crossed paths at the divisional under-16s tournament in Lichfield when I think I was 14 or 15. So Maggie had been, you're a year older than me. So we're looking around 2000.
She's giving away your age, Maggie, right there.
I know she is.
I think I got capped for England a little bit before Mags, but basically we had our whole career together, didn't we? I can think of worse people to have on my team. Luckily we didn't. Well, you only tackled me once properly in a Premiership game because I got blindsided by a pass that I shouldn't have got. And I remember being like, obviously I was always super grateful that Maggie was on my team with England and managed to avoid her at most costs with club. But when I got tackled, you absolutely crushed me. And I got up and I was like, do not show your pain, Nolly. Do not. Don't give her that credit.
Is it that sore? Is it that bad? Because it looks bad on telly.
You know what? It's really hard because, to be fair, out of all of the players in England that I've ever played against, Maggie has had the biggest amount of grief from her teammates to never tell her that she's as good as she is. I think now we can do it because we're not playing at all. But it was awful.
I do remember, Maggie, I don't know if you remember this, during the last World Cup, and we were both working with ITV's coverage on it, and we had a little demonstration area in the studio, Maggie, do you remember? And we said, let's do a tackling turnover demo. And we had British and Irish Lions, internationals, European Cup winners, and Maggie's like, yeah, I'll have a slice of that. And we had this young demo team from some local rugby club in, and I think Gareth Thomas maybe tackled someone and someone else tackled someone. And then it was Maggie's turn. And this poor guy, she folded him in half. He's on the floor live on TV. I think, is he breathing? What has she done to this guy? I mean, that's the thing, Maggie. You're great fun and you love a bit of messing. And Nolly, I guess you saw the best of that as well. I know all these tours and all these tournaments.
I definitely got to see Maggie the Machine. And, I think one thing that people wouldn't realise is just how much of a great crack Maggie was on the beers on tour. And lots of stories obviously will stay on tour, and I will never disclose the Maggie as one of my best mates. But if you've got a few decent tour stories about someone, then you know that they were a good tourist and that they took rugby seriously on and off the field, which Mags did.
How wild did it get, Maggie, on the road?
It wasn't when we were playing for England, though. I think that the times when we were probably at our most wildest is when we did the old 7 tours together. And there's many times where we've played for the Wooden Spoons. We went to Amsterdam a few times, and it has just be carnage. And look, I feel like I'm the crazy one. Nolly is the worst. I mean, Nolly is. You give her a few. Give her a few drinks, and all of a sudden you're like, where's she gone? What is she up to? And she's definitely the best tourist, I think, whenever you go out with the team. But yeah, we've always had fun. I think it's always been good humour. We're fun drunks, I would always say.
What's your best on the rip injury, Maggie?
Oh,
not on the field, on the rip. Bear in mind, I know the answer, right?
I don't know if I should really say this, but I knocked my teeth out, a couple of my teeth out. I don't know if that's through drinking. They first got knocked out when I was at my club Saracens, and I got very, very drunk there. I basically fell, and instead of using my hands to stable myself and I guess cushion my fall, I used my teeth. I thought that would be the best thing. So my 2 front teeth got knocked out, and I had them fixed. Well, not my real teeth, but sort of fake teeth put in. And then I had a denture and all the usual stuff, really, I guess, as rugby players do. And then went on tour with, who was it with? No, I think it was it
Moody Cows?
Moody Cows, that's it, yeah.
And
that's correct, yeah. And then got very drunk again, and then I lost my teeth. I mean, there's been many occasions where I've just got very drunk and lost my teeth.
Although, Maggie, I think my favourite story for you, which I'm sure you won't mind me sharing. Well, hopefully you don't mind me, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think when you weren't feeling that well and you were sick, and not only had you knocked them out, you actually then lost the ones that you'd been given as a replacement when you were being sick. But it wasn't even the fact that you lost your teeth being sick. It was the fact that they went down the toilet, and then you were so mortified because you were such a celebrity and loads of people didn't know that you had fake teeth, and so therefore you put your arm into the toilet and the strength of Maggie the Machine pulled the toilet off of the wall, flooded the bathroom. But I'm pretty sure you found the teeth, didn't you?
Oh no, they were gone. They were gone.
Oh, they're gone.
And as a result of that, I had to spend a few days without my teeth, and I remember the next day missing our flight because we were so drunk. It was just awful. I mean, it was awful. I think Nolly tells the story way better than I do. But yeah,
you can't remember it, mate.
It was all a blur. All I remember was that I had a massive gap in my mouth. I was like, where have my teeth gone? Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, Nolly, that Maggie changed the way women's rugby was viewed. What's your take on her impact on the women's game?
I think her impact was as big as the impact she actually had on the poor souls that she was playing against. It's far beyond anyone would ever realise. I saw it from the inside, how not just the level of training that you brought, Mags, on a personal level, but the impact that had on the level that we pushed ourselves to as Red Roses. The inspiration that you provided your teammates because of what you were striving for from a success perspective, which then in turn obviously continually drove that massive inspiration of the Red Roses within. But actually, you took women's rugby to new audiences because people had never seen other women hit each other like that you did, and not just the physical side, but also the tactical side of a seven. We would continually laugh about the fact that I would do the line break, and then I'd look to my right or left, and Maggie was there. I was like, Maggie, why are you on my shoulder to finish the try? Like, how have you got here? And actually, it was because of how good a blindside flanker, open side flanker you were. Wherever you were on the field, you were making an impact. And I think that it just showed the world from within the player group, but also from the outside, just how good women's could be. And I think one of my biggest frustrations was actually in 2010. You were so far above every other player in that tournament, but didn't get World Player of the Year because we didn't win it as a team. And I kind of feel like we let you down because we didn't give you the platform to get that award, because it was just incredible to see someone so humble, someone so hardworking, genuinely change the face of things. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I never told you at the time because I never wanted to boost your ego too much. But and then it's awesome now. It's the impact that Mag's had with her platform. Now she's finished, I think, is paving the way for for me and my media role and what you've done there, but also on your rampage towards being the chief of the RFU as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Nolly, that's really, honestly, I have to say, Craig, again, Nolly is being modest herself. I've been very fortunate to score 28 tries.
This isn't about me, Maggie.
But do you know what? My 28 tries have pretty much come from all of Nolly's passes. I think every time she makes a break, and I just make sure that I'm hanging around her when she does do that, so I can get those tries. And yeah, do you know what? I feel it's really nice hearing the words from Nolly in particular. Like, it means a lot when it comes from your teammates. And I've been very fortunate to have had Nolly by my side, and I like to think that we're rehab buddies because we've always been injured together and have always got each other through it together. So, and it's so nice that we're able to do the media stuff together as well. Like, for me to see Nolly flourish is amazing, and I like to think that we both will be able to continue that partnership, for the future. And hopefully inspire many others to come through.
Nolly, it's so good to hear from you. And Maggie, enjoy it, because good friends only compliment you now and again. So enjoy it while you can. She'll be getting stuck into you next time she sees you. Nolly, thanks so much for your time. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Enjoy, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Nolly. Bye.
We're going to talk about the World Cup and more rugby stuff a little bit later, but I'd really like to talk about your media career as we're on it, because it hasn't been easy. There's been female presenters, that's for sure, but for females to get into the kind of commentary booth or the pundit booth, has been difficult in the game. And you were the first woman to commentate on a men's match. And it was just such a massive moment. Your career allowed you to do that because you had all the credibility, but you're also good at it. And I say that because I've done a couple of World Cups with you alongside me, and it's always been an absolute joy. You completely broke the barrier down for women in broadcasting by doing that for the first time. Did you get a sense of that responsibility at the time?
Oh, I remember that first game, actually. It was the Men's Rugby World Cup in 2015, and I was with you and Sean Fitzpatrick. I think it's France versus Romania. So, one of the best games, obviously, in the World Cup. And it's one of those games where I honestly didn't even think about being like the first female to work on a Men's Rugby World Cup. I just actually, all I could think about was, I hope I get the names right, especially the Romanian names. I was absolutely panicking about how on earth do you pronounce them. But I have to say, when I did that game, and then after the game, looking at Twitter as you do, and I had lots of really positive comments. I also had lots of negative ones, as you tend to, unfortunately, just because it's different having a woman talk about a men's match. But I didn't really appreciate the enormity of it until after. And now that I do men's punditry and women's punditry as well, I feel like I don't let my gender be a reason to define who I am when I do the work. I just try and just be a good pundit, really, or a commentator, and make sure that I know my stuff and I can provide good analysis, really. And I think what's been great is seeing that there's more women coming through, not just in rugby, obviously, but in other sports. Alex Scotts are doing really well in football, and then you've got Ebony Rayford Brent in cricket, and obviously Nolly and Emily Scarrett and many others who do rugby as well. So it's nice to know that I might have, taken the first step, but there's many other women out there who are absolutely doing incredible stuff in their own fields.
They really are, including the presenting field, which brings us to the next number on your contact book, because I know you've done some work with her in the past. She is without doubt one of the best sports presenters out there, be it male or female, it doesn't matter. She's just brilliant at what she does. And that is Gabby Logan, huge rugby fan, of course, presented rugby for many, many years. I think we need to give Gabby Logan a buzz to talk about this area, because it's such an interesting area. So let's give Gabby Logan a buzz there. She might be doing her yoga or something, though. It feels like yoga time for Gabby.
Hello.
Hiya, Gabby. It's Craig Doyle here on the contact book. I have Maggie Alphonsi with me. And we're just talking about her life and times. And
hi, Gabby.
Your name came up and we said, let's talk to Gabby. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Nice to speak to you, Craig, and great to speak to you, Maggie. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, a little baby to the world.
I haven't
much sleep.
Seen you since. So, that's part of the deal. So welcome to the world of no sleep.
Gabby, we were just talking there about Maggie was you probably know this, but she was the first female to commentate on a men's game. And Maggie was talking about the reaction she got, largely positive, but the usual kind of awful reaction that you get when you start a career. But the importance of that, the importance of Maggie's voice, Maggie's face being on television talking about the men's game, it was a massive moment, really, wasn't it?
Huge, yeah. And obviously Maggie has the most incredible career herself, and her credibility was never in question, so her voice carried so much weight. It is, as you say, sadly inevitable that some people, whatever you do, they're going to decide they don't like it, and so they're going to voice disquiet. But I think most people were just so delighted that Maggie was able to make that transition.
I'm wondering, for you as a female presenter, to see a female pundit out there, how important was that for you? Because, obviously you're a big rugby fan, you present rugby all the time. A big moment for you as well, personally?
Oh, yeah. I think, when I started out in the industry, I started at Sky in 1996. So I've been in television now for 24 years, and the landscape has changed dramatically. We've gone from seeing very few women in front of camera to now seeing women hosting shows, commentating, but more importantly for me as well, behind the scenes, directing, producing, writers, all areas of television, because, what we didn't want to see was just window dressing. It's important that women are making decisions as much as men are in terms of running sports stations or departments. So obviously when you have people like Maggie, who already, had an incredible profile and a very well-respected career, to move and make that transition to commentary, I think people buy into her, because they already respect her, and it then opens the door for more women to come in behind Maggie, and that's how I've always kind of felt pioneers work.
That's it, Maggie. Somebody has to do it for the first time, so young girls out there can go, I can do it. Look, Maggie's doing it. The door's open to me.
Most definitely. And look, before me, there was many others in terms of, I've always looked up to Gabby in what she does as a presenter. Like she's really highlighted, she's been in the industry for the last 24 years. And then there's likes of, Claire Balding. There's many more. And I think I've been quite lucky to have people like that to look up to and just think if they've done it, there's definitely a pathway for many others to follow those footsteps. And what's great, like I said beforehand, we've got so many more women now in front of the camera, but as Gabby's already highlighted now, we're getting more women behind the camera who are making those key decisions, and we've just got to keep pushing it, really. Ideally, we want to have as many men as there are women involved in the industry and making those big decisions, but also, in front talking about sport.
I think it's about opportunity, isn't it? And it's not per se about having kind of a 50-50 split in sports broadcasting, men and women. I think what it shows is possibility. And so areas that young girls have traditionally felt weren't for them, by seeing Maggie commentating, hearing her commentating, they may then think about another area of life that they thought was not for them, and that might be that they wanted to be an engineer, or they wanted to do something that they, whether, design a Formula One car, something where they thought, well, there doesn't appear to be many women doing that. Actually, what it does is open up possibility, and that's the power of sport. That sport has an enormous potential to help change societal views in lots of different ways. We see it with regard to, say, football, why it's so important that football gets it right when it comes to racism and when it comes to homophobia, is because football's a microcosm of society, and sport in a wider sense is a microcosm of society. So it's not about kind of saying, right, every girl should want to be Maggie Alphonsi or should want to be Claire Balding, or should, it's about saying, right, well, who can you be? What's your possibility? And where can you take your life?
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Sarah Elgin, brilliant presenter, reporter with us on BT Sport. Now, Sarah's husband is Simon East, to be the Ireland's forwards coach. Her father is one of the greatest Welsh rugby players of all time. I'd imagine the conversations about the high level of rugby conversations around their dinner table are absolutely extraordinary. And Sarah would be in the thick of that. She knows her rugby inside out. But still, people will comment about how Sarah looks on screen. Isn't her hair nice? Rather than listen to what she just said about that scrum technique.
I would think it's partly because there is a fascination with how people look and what they wear, but also there's not a balance to that. You don't get that with the man, do you? And Maggie will probably find very soon that she starts doing interviews and people ask her, who's looking after the baby if you're at work? And that's kind of how my career, well, who's with the kids? Is Kenny babysitting? No, Kenny can't babysit because he's their father. He's actually looking after them. So that's part of the shtick. It's a 50-50 thing. So the whole kind of idea that and I understand Sarah must have massive frustration about that, because it is frustrating when you think, well, my male colleagues, nobody's asking Craig where his jumper's from, or they're criticizing the cut of his trouser. But it's almost like trying to chip away at somebody's confidence when it comes to things like that. And I think it's quite insidious, really.
I do often get, is he dyeing his hair? Just to let you know, I get that quite. The answer is no, Gabby. The answer is no. Gabby,
tell
the world. Gabby, just a word on before we wrap up. Just a word on Maggie, though, as a player. We were talking about how she changed the way the game was viewed, and don't take this the wrong way, but a former international said to me recently, do you know what I liked about Maggie? She played rugby like men play rugby. She smashed people, which wasn't meant to be as insulting as it sounds, but I guess that's what the old-fashioned fellas would have seen.
Yeah, and what people, when they watch women's rugby, what they want to see is the tackles being, as committed and as ferocious as they see in the men's game. They want to see the skill levels that they see in the men's game. And I always think with women's sport, there was an opportunity to actually try say, look, don't compare us. It's a different game. We might play this in a slightly different way. Try not to compare us, but people will do, because that's the way they kind of want to try and justify whether or not it's important. But Maggie did play with an incredible amount of passion. Obviously her physical strength and her ability to jackal and to just carry the ball with such might is what set her apart from the best. And the fact that she went on then and almost had a second career as a shot putter and working kind of your strength, it just shows just shows your strength as an athlete, and you could probably, Maggie, you probably could have competed in many other sports. I think you're such a natural sportswoman, and your ability to change a game and to lead, all of those attributes, I think would have seen you probably across 4 or 5 different sports have achieved national colours had you wanted to.
Yeah, I agree. No, what an athlete. Gabby, great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Rugby was lucky to get hold of you, but and it was a perfect confluence. And I loved watching you work. So I hope to see you soon, and hope to hope that being a mummy is becoming slightly less tiring, but always enjoyable.
Gabby, should I also be saying congratulations to you as well? Aren't you a dame?
I haven't had a baby.
Now. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, lockdown hasn't been that long. No, just an MBE. But thank you, Maggie.
You deserve a dame anyway. That's what I said.
Thanks, Gabby. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Brilliant. She's fantastic, isn't she? She's so good at her job as well. She's just so good at her job. Maggie, what are we going to do about women's rugby? Because I love watching it. I love watching the club stuff. I love watching the international stuff. We need to get people watching it. What does women's rugby have to do to really get out there? There's a Rugby World Cup coming up, of course, in New Zealand very soon. We need eyes on it. What should it do?
I think the key thing is trying to make sure, obviously, we get it on the TV. So, we saw the Women's Six Nations that was shown on Sky Sports, and I think highlights were also on BBC. And also, we've got the Women's Premiership, Allianz Prem 15s. A lot of the games are either shown on Sky Sports or on stream by the RFU. So it's trying to make sure that we're giving the opportunity for the women's game to be seen by as many eyes as possible, especially when we lead up to the Rugby World Cup, which is going to be in 2021 for the women. You want to get people to watch the game, but then to start, I guess, identifying key players within the sport, because it's same like in men's rugby or men's football or anything like that. When fans get to start to, I guess, identify key players and start to follow their journey, they become more attached and engaged to the sport. So I think we need to do that going into the Rugby World Cup. But again, during the Rugby World Cup, making sure that the games are shown regularly. But also, I'd say another thing to help the women's game, probably similar to what Gabby said, it's having diversity almost in decision-making roles. So, we don't have a lot of women who are coaches. We don't have a lot of women who are officiating or in governance. And I think we need to get more women in those roles, just to help bring change in that respect, as well as for women's rugby. We're seeing it now in England. Our women players can be professional athletes. So when you play for England and you get on that contract, you can now be a professional athlete and have the rest that you need and look after your body and train as hard as you can to be able to compete against the very best. And that's made a big difference, I think, in the women's game over here in England. So I think for the women's game to continue to improve, it's having the funds, it's having TV coverage, it's having key people in decision-making roles, and then also sponsors as well, having those key sponsors come out and support the women's game, like we've seen with the Prem 15s. Allianz are now sponsoring it, and prior to that, it was Tyrrell. So, sponsors like that coming out and showing their support for the women's game does make a big difference. And
this is why you need to be a future president of the Rugby Football Union. Is that a very genuine goal for you?
Most definitely, yeah. So I've been part of the RFU Council since 2016, I think it was, that's it, just after the Men's Rugby World Cup. And I'm truly enjoy being part of that group, that setup, and it's all about making a difference, isn't it, really? So it's about impacting our game. And, for me, I'm very passionate about, obviously, the women's game. I'm passionate about diversity and inclusion. And I think being a council member, I can really have an impact that way, because I'm in the room having those conversations, and I'm working with many other council members and the president and the chief exec to ensure that we get those changes and that the game continues to grow and the game continues to be a sport for everyone, really. So, yeah, I have very big aspirations to one day be president. And, it will take time because you have to get on the presidential ladder, but definitely I'm putting that goal out there, and hopefully when I make it, many others will want to do the same. Not everyone sees doing work in governance as being very attractive, but I think it's quite powerful because you get to have an impact in a different way.
It's hugely important. And the fact, hey, not just a woman, but you're a black woman, and that's hugely important as well. We're seeing the Black Lives Matter movement before matches in the Premiership at the moment, and a lot of the talk hasn't been about seeing more black players, but seeing black men and women in executive jobs, in decision-making jobs within the game. That's something that really has to happen, isn't it?
Totally. If you think about diversity on the playing field for the men in particular, you see it across the board in the Premiership. There's pretty good diversity. In the women's game, not so much. But where we're really lacking in both the men's and the women's game is, like you've already highlighted, we don't have that diversity in roles of leadership. As coaches, again, as in officiating and in governance. That's where we need to really have some serious change, because if you've got diversity in the way in governance in particular, then you have diversity in thinking as well, and creating more opportunities for many others. So that's why I'd love to see the improvement. At the moment on the RFU Council, I am the only person of colour in the council, and And I truly believe that will change over time, not just for people of colour, but just generally greater diversity, because we want to make sure that, I guess, the governance that we have, the governance structure that we have, reflects those who play the game as well.
No surprise when you growing up that it was a black athlete that you looked up to. And I think it's interesting, you said because she looked like you. We're talking about Denise Lewis, of course, one of the greatest of all time, but she kind of made things possible for you by seeing her achieve. Is that how it works for a young kid, I guess?
Yeah, growing up, I loved watching sport on TV. I couldn't really see women's rugby much on TV. I actually didn't even see men's rugby much on TV. So I didn't really necessarily love the sport to start off with. But I saw the Olympics, every 4 years. That was always on TV and it always had a lot of attention. And I think the person who really stood out to me was Denise Lewis. In 2000, she won gold in heptathlon. And I just thought, wow, this woman, she sort of, she looks like me and she's got a sort of similar background. And I think, wow, that if she can do it and get an Olympic gold medal and be really famous, then, there's a good chance that I can do that. And that really inspired me. Again, I didn't really go into athletics, but it just inspired me to have someone of her, I guess, capability go on to achieve so much. And, she became a national treasure as a result of that.
Oh, big time, rightly so. Interesting enough, she was such a treasure to you that she was your specialist subject on Charity Mastermind. I'm not going to go over the questions again, but what I thought was lovely, and this is a side to you people won't know about, that your charity was the Diana Brindlecombe Animal Rescue Charity, because you're a huge dog lover. I didn't know this about you. I didn't know that Muffin and Tinker are so important to your life. Tell us about Muffin and Tinker.
Muffin and Tinker are both 6 years old, and they're brilliant schnauzers, miniature schnauzers. Prior to having Artie, little baby, I'd say those two were our first two kids, just because you require a lot of energy to look after them. But I just love. I've always been a dog lover in terms of, wanting to look after them and to ensure that they're treated right.
And you truly do love them because you work with her charity, the D-Bark charity. And Janet Young, she's on your speed dial, I'd imagine, because she works with the dog charity. And I think it's great when someone works with a charity like this that, there are bigger charities out there, but a charity this size, having someone like you backing them must be huge. So let's give Janet Young a bit of a buzz and find out more about this dog's life of yours, because I want to know about something called Schnauzer Fest. I mean, this actually exists, Schnauzer Fest. I might get Janet to explain all this. Hello, Janet.
Hi.
Hi, Janet. It's Craig Doyle here on the Contact Book. I have a Schnauzer fan, Maggie Alphonsi, alongside me. We're just having a chat about her life and times, how important it has been having someone like Maggie back in the charity and the kind of work she's done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Maggie's been a fabulous ambassador for D-Bark. She's been involved with us for quite a few years now. And, without people like her, with her profile, we really rely on people like her to come along and support us and sort of share our name and share what we do. She's been a great asset to us.
Okay, ladies, tell me, what is Schnauzer Fest? It sounds amazing.
So Schnauzer Fest was an idea that was thought up about 2013, 2014 by Janetta Harvey, an author who had a rescue Schnauzer from D-Bark. And she came up with the idea of basically people with schnauzers all doing a charity walk on the same weekend in October. And so that's how the Schnauzer Fest name came about. And it was to raise funds to support the Diana Brindlecombe Rescue Centre, which obviously Maggie is a great ambassador for.
Well, there is something you do, Maggie, which is lovely. You're so humble you haven't mentioned this ever to me. In all the chats we've had, you actually sit with the dogs that have had a really bad time, a really bad upbringing, that don't like humans. You kind of turn them around, Maggie. Tell me what you do.
There's some dogs who've had some very bad experiences, and actually you get the opportunity just to sort of sit with them and just nurture them, and it takes time for them to sort of get used to people. And I've had the chance, just to sit with a few of them and help them feel comfortable with being around humans again.
Oh, Janet, thank you so much for joining us today. It sounds like some dogs need walking there behind you, but really good to hear about the great work you do. And thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
And thank you to Maggie. She's been a great supporter, and long may it continue. I know she's going to come up very soon. So
definitely. Thank you so much, Janet.
Get me to Schnauzer Fest, Maggie. Get me there.
Now you said it, I'm going to get you one of the Schnauzer t-shirts.
Oh, will
It's bright orange though, so you're going to have to wear it when you're doing your TV gigs now. Or for double glazing. You can wear it when you do double glazing.
Hey, triple glazing, Maggie, keep up.
Triple glazing,
triple glazing. I love sports people's careers because success brings you to all these different parts of life. I mean, let's be honest, when you were starting off, you didn't think one day I want to work for some animal charities. I want to be friends with Gabby Logan. I want to work for ITV. It is amazing. But all of it comes back to your commitment to your career. And I guess for you, the biggest moment, that World Cup win. You'd lost a couple of World Cup finals. Finally, though, the relief of winning that World Cup. Tell me all about it.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It was a relief. Prior to that, in 2006, we got to the final in that World Cup against New Zealand and we lost. I think it was like 28-17, I think. And then 4 years after that, went to another World Cup in 2010, but that was in England. Lost again against New Zealand in the final. The score was 13-10. And then to spend another 4 years, then get to another World Cup and then get to the final. But thankfully, played Canada in the final, not New Zealand. And we won that one. And that was it was a huge relief, because you just spent 12 years or so building up to that one moment, and then for it to be all done within 80 minutes just seems crazy, really. But to finally achieve it, I felt like I was able to retire really after that, because that has been the one goal that I had been chasing for such a long time. It was nice to finally do it, and to do it with a fantastic bunch of players as well.
I want to go back to, actually, because obviously England are readying themselves for a series of autumn internationals at the moment. And Owen Farrell back captaining the England team. And it's come up a lot during this chat about how physical you were and just what a big tackler you were. You destroyed people in tackles. But I heard a rumour that you went to train with Saracens men when you were with the Saracens team, and you smashed Owen Farrell a few times. Is this right? Did you destroy the England captain?
He probably won't remember it, but I remember it very vividly. What happened was that a few of us England women players would be part of various Premiership clubs academy boys setups. So I was part of the Saracens, I guess the men's or boys academy, and actually at that time in that academy was Owen Farrell, Jamie George Cruz, so some really obviously top players in that one. And I remember when I had one of the sessions that I turned up to, Eddie Jones was coaching it. At the time, he was director of rugby at Saracens. And I remember they were saying, "Yeah, Maggie's allowed to train with the academy boys for this session. It's going to be full contact. I don't want anyone to hold back on anything, regardless of your gender." So I remember I knew it was going to be a physical, tough session. It might have been some sort of controlled version of rugby. It might be 3v2, and I was in defence. And I remember the ball going to Owen Farrell, and at that time he had a Justin Bieber sort of hair flick. So I remember he wanted to run it in me and take me out, basically. I just remember on the sideline, obviously his dad, Andy Farrell, was on the sideline at the time because he was obviously coaching Saracens as well. From what I remember, they were like, "Oh yeah, I watch out for this." I think it was perceived that I was never going to tackle him, and he ran right into me, and I didn't give him I didn't smash him back, but I definitely stopped him in his tracks. And I just remember the coach on the sideline going, "Oh my God, she didn't just do that, did she?" And it was quite amusing, quite entertaining. And I don't think he probably remembers it, but I remember it vividly.
Shall we find
Best
out?
day of my life.
Let's find out.
You're not really going to call it away.
Well, I tell you what, he's locked down in England camp at the moment with Eddie Jones, so I couldn't get him on the phone now. But I did ask him a little earlier, and he said, "Right, I'm going to set the record straight with Alphonsi." This is what Owen Farrell, the England captain, had to say about that tackle that day. Have a listen to this.
I can remember it, albeit a long, long time ago now. And obviously she stuck out as being impressive. And obviously that showed throughout her career. And to be as dominant as she was for as long as she was, obviously is unbelievably impressive. And then are the type of people that you look up to. Not just an impressive player, but the people that I've always looked up to are people that's been dominant in their sport for a long, long time. And for Maggie to be able to be as dominant as she was for the amount of time that she was a real privilege to watch.
Well, there you go, Maggie. From one leader to another, Owen Farrell doesn't throw the compliments around too easy, but my word, he looked up to you.
Oh, do you know what? It's so nice to hear those words, and I'm actually surprised that he even remembers me being at the academy. He was a superstar even at that time, so for him to remember me then is very special. But it's quite funny because I've never actually spoken to him about the tackle at all, really. Like I said, for me, that's probably the greatest day of my life. But yeah, it's nice to hear those words from him because he's, as we all know, a brilliant player, a brilliant leader himself. And yeah, to get positive words from someone like him means a lot as well. So that's really nice. That's really made my day.
Well, good. A brilliant leader like him recognising a brilliant leader and a player like you. Maggie, this has been such a lovely chat on the Contact Book. It's been so good reliving your life with you and with all your friends and colleagues. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have. It's been brilliant. It's definitely made me blush a little bit. There's some stories I can't actually remembered for a while, and actually have them be brought up has been nice. So it's been a lovely opportunity to talk to some old people in my life.
Oh, well done, Maggie. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us on the Contact Book. You've been brilliant. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Maggie Alphonsi, what a fantastic person with a brilliant career. Really good to talk to her and great to have her on the Contact Book. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, you can catch up with other episodes, the likes of Brian Habana and Brian O'Driscoll, and new ones on their way as well very, very soon indeed. And don't forget, please do subscribe to the Contact Book. It'd be really good to have your company every time we do one of these. So, the Contact Book is produced by Keith Doyle by 3 Rock Productions for Audi. Until we talk again, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.